for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys? Welcome to episode 203 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are live here every Wednesday night on Going for Two Live Podcast Network on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, syndicated in all major podcast networks and streaming in the app for Android and iOS. If you are on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button for us. It helps us out. As always, I am here with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Steerfoss. Ryan, what's up, man?
Not much, man. Just finishing a podcast and marathon for the past 5 days. Then about to start on my team projections. So it's going to be nice and busy fantasy-wise. And now that we have landing spots, it's awesome.
Yeah, you are a glutton for punishment, man. I don't know how you did that many podcasts in that many days. That's crazy.
This will be, once this finishes, this will be 12 hours since Thursday.
Oh, my God.
Exciting.
That is too much. That is too much. All right. Our guest tonight, a longtime friend on Twitter, first time on the show, Mr. Shane Swagger. You can follow him on Twitter at ShaneZilla0G. He is the host of Rookie Fever, Super Flexible, and the Fantasy Football Breakdown podcast. What's up, Shane?
How's it going, guys? Thanks a lot for having me. Excited to be here. It's actually Swagzilla0G.
What did I say?
I think you said Shanezilla, which is cool. People might like me more.
Yeah, way to blow.
Yeah, way to blow it. I'm off my game tonight. My bad. Yeah, it is. I had that written down right too. Swagzilla0G. I don't know where I got Shanezilla. But
no, he does. I saw the notes. But man, I'm stoked to be here, guys. Fun time of year, like we said. Seen you guys around forever, talked to you in a lot of chats, but never got to hit the mic together. It's almost a shame. So I'm stoked, man. Thanks a ton.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. So really quick, kind of give my listeners a little bit about yourself, how you got into this, what y'all do over at Rookie Fever Podcast, anything else you want to plug.
Man, Rookie Fever, great place to start right now, just this time of year and everything we've done with our player profiles and all the guests we've kind of brought on. A lot of great Devy guys in the community have helped us tie it all together and do profiles on all those players. We're kind of done. It's kind of like you were saying, Ryan, you kind of get to that point where you're like, man, I need a little break. And when we were finally kind of to that point when we were like, wow, so we're done with the player profiles. Mm-hmm. And it was almost just like it was so fun, but it was a weight lifted off our shoulders as well. So, man, you got to go check those out at Rookie Fever, though. They're all really easy to find, really easy to go through. Other than that, doing Super Flexible, sometimes myself, sometimes with John Hogue, stuff over at Superflex City, and then Fantasy Football Breakdown. I've kind of been trying to rejuvenate that feed a little bit with some bringing some guests on, and I created it into what I've called the 15-minute breakdown, and it's just 15 minutes flat, in and out, fast-paced, and I try to put the guests under a little bit of pressure, get to know them really quick. Usually you get about 11 fantasy or football type questions, and then kind of 4 get to know them questions throughout the show in any order that I've decided to throw them at you. And we've got hard stops like with buzzers. It's kind of fun, man. I'll have to get you guys on. Honestly,
nice.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that sounds
fun, quick show.
Good stuff. All right, so we have a jam-packed show tonight. We got a ton of rookies to get through, but let's get to some news and notes first.
News and notes from around the league.
News and notes, as always, is brought to you by the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Everyone hates bad trade offers, right? No one wants to be that guy. Never make a bad trade offer again with the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Visit goingfor2.com/DTC to sign up for only $15 a year. That's right. All you do is visit goingfor2.com/DTC and get the best trade calculator for only $15 a year. Stop guessing, start calculating. All right, so the first news, obviously, is the big news all over the place right now is the whole Aaron Rodgers drama. I'm just going to open it up here. For Ryan, for you first here. What are your thoughts on this Aaron Rodgers drama? Is he going to be a Packer next year? You know, if he's not, where do you think he might end up? Is he actually going to retire? Just your overall thoughts on the situation.
I think he's a better chance of retiring than being a Packer, but I think he gets traded. Like, I don't think there's any ways a Packer. He is notoriously a stubborn human being. This dude stopped talking to his family. If he can cut them off, he can cut off a football team who he's been with for 16 years. Denver makes sense. The Raiders make sense. I think it's gonna come down on the wire. I don't know if we're gonna see anything for a while. Maybe until after that June 15th thing where things start like the cap changes a little bit. But I have no idea, man. It's a mess. He could just as easily go to be on Jeopardy. Yeah, exactly. And he legit already said he'd rather give $25 million back to the team to play for him.
Wow.
Like, those were his words. He's done there. Good thing they traded up draft quarterback last year.
Yeah. It looks a whole lot smarter now, doesn't it, that they got a quarterback last year? That's for sure.
It somehow looks smarter and dumber at the same time. Because it pissed off the MVP. Also, there's only been one MVP to ever change teams after they won MVP.
Is that Peyton Manning?
Yes, and two have retired.
Yep.
But that's it. Like,
wow.
One was Jim Brown. I can't remember who the third was. I think it was Staubach.
Was it Brett Favre?
It's not something that we see. No, because Favre didn't win MVP before he left for the Jets. Or, for the Vikings.
Right. He went to the Jets first and then the Vikings. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, after MVP season, there's only been two ever who retired. Like, we're in unprecedented waters. I have no idea what to take from it.
Yeah, it's crazy. What are your thoughts on this thing, Shane?
I mean, I agree. I don't think he's going to play for the Packers again. I think at some point, though, even the Packers will kind of just throw their cards in, and they'll realize that they can still get a little something back for Aaron Rodgers, and that something will likely be better than Jordan Love, whether it's Derek Carr or you create a quarterback competition with Drew Lock. I think that they'll probably want to get some kind of quarterback back in return. It's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but I think, like, for the guys that think that Aaron Rodgers is going to come to the Raiders and then take Derek Carr's job, I mean, you're probably still going to have a starter in Derek Carr. But I mean, I agree. I think this situation is unmendable at this point. I think it's done, and I agree. I think that he'd sooner retire.
Wow, it's crazy to think that he's the MVP coming off that huge season that he had, and had no rumblings whatsoever about him being upset, and then also out of the blue this pops up. So what are you doing if you're a dynasty owner, Ryan? Are you holding on to Rodgers right now? Are you trying to trade him for whatever you can get? Like, what are you trying to do with Rodgers right now?
I'm probably gonna hold him now because I think you're screwed. Because right now, if you're going to get trade offers sent your way, people are trying to lowball you because of the situation. You're not going to get a fair offer. And whatever you're going to get, the upside isn't going to be what Aaron Rodgers is. So I think you're just stuck with it. You hold and pray.
Are you on the same wavelength there, Shane, for as far as holding on to him right now?
I agree. If I'm in a league where I can trust kind of throwing him on the trading block, I might do that and see if any offers come my way, but I'm not going to keep, like, every day going into my league and reiterating, like, hey, come get Aaron Rodgers, and, like, depreciate the value every day. So I might throw him on the block, see if I do get any offers that I like or that are worth countering. But, man, I think it's going to be tough.
Would you take a first for him?
This year?
Yeah.
Do I know what pick it is?
Let's say mid-first. Let's say 107.
Superflex or one quarterback?
It'd be so tough to do that without being on the clock and knowing who's there. So I'm going to say no, because I think that rookie at this point probably holds just as much, if not more risk than Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather have somebody that I kind of know what I'm getting into at that point. I mean, if I miss out on all the quarterbacks even at that point, and then I'm just kind of looking at, I'm not happy replacing Aaron Rodgers with Kyle Pitts, even in a tight end premium. And I don't even think Kyle Pitts makes it there, but I'm just saying that I want a quarterback.
So 104?
I might do it for 104, and if I might divert to Justin Fields if I could. If I'm on the clock, I got Justin Fields at 106 the other day, and I was in awe.
If I can get Justin Fields for him, I'd do that.
Yeah. I think Justin Fields, Trey Lance, obviously Trevor Lawrence, if you can get him. Obviously,
I might take Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. The only one I'm not taking, I won't take Matt Jones over him. He's the only one that I won't. Of the 5 quarterbacks that went in the first round, I think he's the only one.
Even if the play from there is to go like trade whichever one of those guys we just mentioned for like Stafford plus because of the rookie fever and get something that you feel a little bit more proven. I don't want to say secure now with Matthew Stafford and the way his injuries have actually been, but something that you feel a lot more proven about at that point, because that's what it's all about. Any of these guys could make or break at this point, and it's really exciting. I love all of these quarterbacks landing spots, including Mac Jones. I agree he's my 5th ranked one, but all these guys landed in great spots where they could have some good opportunities.
Agreed. All right, these last 2 notes here, we'll just fly through really quickly so we can get to these rookies here. But Adam Schefter reports that the 49ers thought Trey Lance was the quote-unquote smartest QB in the draft and most ready to play right away. Do you agree with that, Ryan?
I mean, that's something we really don't have access to. He ran a pro-style offense, which was a good thing for him. I heard he tested really well, and he had some. What is he? It was Ivy League offers or something crazy like that. I don't want to be wrong on that, but and talk out my ass. I'm pretty sure I heard that through the grapevine. But we have no reason to believe he's not. We know North Dakota State runs a complicated offense. We saw, as whatever you feel about Carson Wentz, he was pro-ready coming from that offense.
Good point.
And you're telling me Trey Lance won't be? So Ohio State's offense isn't dumbed down, but it's a lot quicker one-read things. Alabama, you're surrounded by a ton of weapons. So if you're making this argument for me, I'm not really against it. I'm not saying he's not, I'm saying he's right, but if that's what they believe, and he's the smartest for their fit, I'm cool with that. And I believe he could play right away.
Yeah, see, I had heard the opposite, before we knew what the landing spot was, for him and for, was it Justin Fields? Was it Trey Lance? Was it Mac Jones? I had heard that he was the one that was the least NFL ready as far as jumping in right away. But now, of course, the draft has happened. We, quote unquote, got our guys, they always like to say. And now he's suddenly the smartest one. He can start right away. What are your thoughts on this one, Shane?
I mean, okay, so I was talking to John Hogue about this the other day and just kind of Trey Lance and where he landed. But to touch on what you said, I think that they probably do believe that he's the best mix of both of those two things between intelligence and NFL ready. He's also the youngest of this bunch at only 20 years old. And I think outside of Mac Jones, he landed in probably the best run organization there. And I like that a lot. That's important to me. The more I wanted to have Justin Fields as like a solidified 102, but the more him and I started talking about it and just the organizations they're in, like from the Jets to the Jags, even Lawrence, all these guys, he's probably in the best landing spot. I mean, do you want your quarterback to play for the Bears or the 49ers if they're the same quarterback? You know what I mean?
Good point.
If they feel that way about him, he's only 20 years old. He's got Kittle, Ayuk. I'm going the wrong direction, but I love his landing spot.
Yeah,
and he did have Ivy League offers. I wasn't making that up. I was putting that up.
Good. Fact check yourself really quick.
I know I heard it, but I didn't want to not fact check myself and be a liar. I'm sorry.
That's why I kept talking. I'm long-winded just for you to look stuff up.
I appreciate it, Shane.
Good stuff. All right, and the last thing on here real quick, Vic Fangio came out and said that he's planning to split the reps between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater in the offseason, 50-50. Do y'all believe that, for one, after they traded for Teddy Bridgewater, and who do you think has the upper hand right now as the starter, Shane?
I think they'd like to go into camp with Drew Lock week 1 if it's between those two. I think that they'd love it to be Aaron Rodgers or somebody else, quite honestly, but I think they want to push for Drew Lock. I'd try to sell either of those players, or maybe hold them and see which one it is and then sell.
Yeah, I agree there. Ryan, what are your thoughts there? I know you said before you like Drew Lock as the guy with more upside, obviously, but what are your thoughts on the 50-50 split, and do you think Bridgewater can somehow outplay Drew Lock, or not even outplay him, if he can turn over him, if that's even a word, where he doesn't turn the ball over, they play good defense, run the ball, can he be the quarterback for the Broncos in week 1?
I don't think Teddy is. I mean, you follow tea leaves. He got a backup. They traded a 6th-rounder for him. He's only making $8 million a year. They had the opportunity to draft a quarterback, and they didn't. And that, if you pass on a quarterback, that tells me you still have some faith in Drew Lock. Teddy Bridgewater is a perfect backup. He's a bridge quarterback if Lock doesn't work out. And he's just enough to push him, and hopefully his veteran presence makes him better. But I think Drew Lock's still the guy until they truly show us otherwise.
All right, yeah, I think I'm with y'all both on that as well.
But, if they traded with the Packers, and I was the Packers, I'd rather have Bridgewater. Because you already have the upside guy in Jordan Love.
Yeah, good point.
So you take the backup with somebody with him, that would make more sense.
Yeah, I like that as well. That's a good point. Have Bridgewater as he's the quote unquote safe guy, right? He's like the Alex Smith of the league right now. He's the guy. He's not going to turn the ball over.
He's the new Alex Smith. Yeah,
he's basically what he is. All right, so we got tons to get to these rookies here, but first thing I want to announce, we had a contest going before the draft. If we reached 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel before the draft, we were going to give away one of our personal league podcasts, basically a 1-hour podcast that we do. It's a service that we offer just based on your league. We do your entire league, break down each team. So we're giving that away, and it also comes with 12 of our going for 2 no kickers, as you can see my hat here, no kickers t-shirts that are customized with your league name. So we are giving away one of those packages before the draft, and I wanted to announce the winner tonight. I'm going to butcher his name. I even asked him how to pronounce it. I'm still probably going to butcher it. Bill Skoglin, you can follow him at Air Skoggy on Twitter. It's Air Skogggy. He wins the package. It's pretty cool because he's actually been a fan of the show for quite a while. I actually talked to him a little bit on Facebook. He always chimes in, asks me questions and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see him win that. And we're excited to break down his league. His rookie draft is this Sunday, so they want to have the podcast done after this Sunday. So definitely a cool thing there, guys, for Bill and his league there. They're excited about this whole thing. All right, let's get to these landing spots.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, so we talked a little bit about some of these guys already. We mentioned Trey Lance, so we'll kind of skip Trey Lance right now. But I want to go Justin Fields and his outlook there with Chicago. Obviously, year 1, he's got Allen Robinson, who's on a franchise tender, so there's a chance that there's no Al Robinson there next year. What is your long-term outlook for Mr. Justin Fields there, Shane?
I mean, I like it. Like I said, I want him to be my 102. I'm torn between him and Trey Lance. I think he's going to be okay, though. I think it is too bad he fell. I'm glad Chicago moved up to get him. I think that means a lot. And I think they got a great quarterback, honestly. Somebody that has been argued as the 101 to 102 up until this last couple months. So I like it a lot, man.
Yeah, I think I'm with you as well. I think that's a great spot for him. I know, they predicted that he might fall as far as the Pittsburgh Steelers at one point, which, you'd like that in the long term, not in the short term. But I think short term, he's got great value. He is probably, one of the better running quarterbacks in this league, and we know how much fantasy football loves running quarterbacks.
Is he like instantly Allen Robinson's best quarterback ever?
Instantly, definitely, without taking a snap. I mean, I think there's no question about that. I think I might be the best quarterback for Allen Robinson if I was to get a snap in Chicago. So,
I mean, Blake Bortles is the best quarterback ever.
Yeah, exactly. If you're ranking
maybe though at this point.
yeah, it's crazy to think that he had that one big
Yeah.
year Blake Bortles did, and that's the best that he's ever had. So crazy to think, but yeah. Let's look at Mr. Mac Jones. First of all, Ryan, any chance that Mac Jones starts this year, assuming that Cam Newton stays healthy? Do you think Mac Jones finds his way onto the field, or is Cam Newton keep that job all year?
I think it's Cam's this year. And the reason for it is because it's such a switch in the dynamic of that offense. We went in New England from having an offense built around Tom Brady, who's drop back passer, no real rushing upside, to Cam Newton, who they built it kind of to run for him to run, power football, all that stuff. And now they're going back to Mac Jones. I think they brought in the pieces for him to succeed, but I think it's a major change mid-season to go from one to the other. Is it impossible? No, but if the Patriots are in the playoff hunt, which their defense and rushing attack should keep them there, I can't see a midseason change to the quarterback position without having an injury occur.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Shane? You agree there? Do you think that it's Cam's job?
I don't believe Cam showed enough last year to know that he's the week one guy, to be quite honest with you. I feel like the veteran presence that he should have shown, even with any kind of injuries, wasn't there, and they don't have a ton of weapons. I think we'll see some Mac Jones at some point this year. I don't know if he starts week one, but and then I mean even like Cam Newton, I mean that contract is $7 million, like playoff bonuses in it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, I think it's tough. Like Ryan said, I mean the difference in style between Cam Newton and Mac Jones is so drastic that's true. It's like if you're going to build an offense around Cam Newton and then you're thinking, okay, week 7, week 6, we're going to switch everything up. Like the amount of things that you got to change in that offense to fit Mac Jones' style is going to be tough. I mean, but I do think that they drafted Mac Jones obviously to be a starter eventually. So if Cam Newton comes out and struggles, I think Jones gets in there. Maybe they move Cam Newton to fullback and just have him do those goal line runs because that's basically what he did last year.
He might be the best running back on the team now that you mentioned it.
yeah, I think he might be. So yeah, and then I just have one last question on the quarterbacks before we get to these running backs, get to the money position here. I asked this question on Facebook. I also asked it during the draft as well. So obviously Trevor Lawrence is the quote unquote consensus 101 in rookie drafts, super flex leagues. But if you're drafting in a redraft league and you just need 1 year of a quarterback, any chance that Justin Fields or Trey Lance is over him, you think, Shane?
Nah, I'm taking Trevor Lawrence still.
Still going Trevor Lawrence? And I think, Ryan, you said the same thing, right? You're still going Trevor Lawrence as well?
I'm going Trevor Lawrence, but I think it could be Justin Fields. It's a really good situation. We're looking at he's the only one really going to a playoff team. And Chicago's offense was bad because of the quarterback position, not because of the offense. Like, he has 3 decent receivers, Mooney and Robinson, who's awesome. Anthony Miller has talent. He has 2 good running backs. He has a young, talented tight end. There's weapons there for him to succeed, and he could do good. He'd give you that 300 to 400 rushing yard bonus. So I haven't pegged it as my QB 15 already.
Nice.
Overall. And it could go up, and I'm not saying I'd do it, but if I'm on the clock and I'm deciding between those 2 guys, I'm not saying I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those. It's gonna be something I go back and forth with through the off season.
Yeah.
Just once I hear some more camp news, but I could definitely picture a world where I take Justin Fields.
Agreed. I think my thing is like if Trevor Lawrence is that higher sought after quarterback and he does get drafted higher than Justin Fields, I have no problem waiting, the 1 or 2, 3 rounds later to get Justin Fields and be happy with that as my quarterback in redraft because I do think he has that upside for sure. And the discount you might get on him, depending how your league feels about him, is definitely worth it. All right, let's get to these running backs.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
All right, let's start right there at the top with Najee Harris going to the Steelers. We all expected him more or less to end up with the Steelers. It was kind of talked about a little bit before the draft that he might go there. The talk, of course, is their offensive line is not very good, but he's still the 101, I think, in non-Superflex leagues. What is your thought on this landing spot here, Shane? Do you like Najee Harris for the Steelers?
I love this landing spot. I think it's a dream landing spot, even with the perceived Ben Roethlisberger retirement. I love this landing spot. He's a little bit of an older running back, but he is even you said one quarterback, but for me, even in Superflex, he's the one guy that could challenge me to take a different position at 102.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, I like it. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Mr. Najee Harris? And I know you're in Pittsburgh, so do they love him there, or what's their thoughts there?
So they originally wanted an offensive lineman in that spot, but they're all ecstatic about it now, and I think he's gonna be a star there. That offense, like we've seen enough of Mike Tomlin's offenses for years and years now to know what to expect. They like one running back systems. And they love to dump the ball off to the running back. Especially, you're going to see now, with that offensive line being bad, yes, it can hurt his rushing efficiency. But when you're getting rushed heavily as a quarterback, you're looking for that dump off to the running back. That he could see 50 to 70 targets. He really could. And it wouldn't surprise me. And I can't see him not having over 200 attempts, rushing attempts. Like, he's going to be a volume hog. He's going to be probably my top 10 running backs this year.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure who's actually going to be there, but there's a real potential for it because the volume's going to be there. And
yep.
I trust volume in fantasy.
I like it. And you mentioned those checkdowns there, and I think Ben Roethlisberger went from a quarterback that held the ball the most to last year being the one to get rid of the ball the quickest, and that comes with those quick routes and dump offs to the running back, who definitely fall into that category there. Screenplays are going to be a big part of that offense, I believe, and Najee Harris, I think, fits that bill perfectly.
I've seen James Conner, who's nowhere near the athlete or receiving threat, get 70 targets.
Yeah.
Like, that tells me I can trust it.
Yep. Agreed. All right, let's move to Javonte Williams, who everyone who listens to this podcast know I was in love with Javonte Williams. I actually wrote him up way back in January as one of my favorite guys in this draft. He goes to the Broncos. Year one, he's got some competition with Melvin Gordon. What's your thoughts on this landing spot, Shane?
I have him over Etienne, and he was also drafted over Etienne last night. Did a mock draft with the guys over at Dynasty Trades HQ, and he went above Etienne. So I love it. I like this landing spot a lot. I think Melvin Gordon is still going to be included in this equation. He'll probably even be the starter, but I think Williams will be the fantasy producer.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I do think that Melvin Gordon starts the season off as the starter. He had a pretty good season last year. Very touchdown dependent, but I do think it was still a very good season. No reason to necessarily replace him. I think I even wrote in the article that I wrote that Javonte Williams could go into a timeshare type situation early on, but I think he eventually gets the lead job there. But even as a secondary option to Melvin Gordon, I do love Javonte Williams. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
I'm not as rosy on it. I don't dislike it, but for what we've seen with Denver, they haven't been super creative with their running backs. It's not comparing him, but he has a very similar skill set to Melvin Gordon, where he's that banger inside. He's a little bit above average in the passing game, which they haven't used that much. And I think he could be a running back too, but I don't know if I see the running back one upside with him, which kind of puts a damper for me just a little bit. But, I mean, he's still my RB3 this year.
Yeah, I think I had moved him down initially, and then I looked at it some more, and I moved him back. I had him above Etienne before the draft, and then I moved him down a little bit and back up. But I think they're interchangeable. I think those two are actually going to be pretty close as far as year one.
My top three didn't change, like the order or anything. Like, it's the same.
It's the same. Speaking of Etienne, let's go to Etienne and the Jags there. A little bit of surprise there because all those James Robinson truthers out there thought that Robinson had that job there. Now we throw Etienne in the mix there. Any worry about Etienne's outlook there with James Robinson, Shane?
I'm not worried about it. I think they're going to complement each other well, actually, just their skill sets and what they do. I don't know if it was the smartest pick for the Jags to make it. It shocked me, like you said. I am one of those James Robinson truthers. So I'm not going to try to shy away from that. I think James Robinson is going to be just fine. I don't think he's going to be who he was last year. But really, we want any of our running backs to have somebody else there. We just didn't expect it to be Etienne in the first round. I think that he's going to get used a lot on the third downs. Trevor Lawrence has already been hitting him up with those for years, So, well, not years, but So I like it. Yeah.
Couple years, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Etienne with the Jags?
I actually like it a lot. Like how you said, Shane, they do complement each other really well, and I think Etienne's skill set. You don't want him to be a 20+ touch guy. He's a little smaller. He's more big play dependent. Like he's a home run threat. So if you keep a guy like that fresh, that's better for the offense. And he does well in the passing game. So he could get 12 to 15 carries a game and 4 to 6 targets and put up 120 net yards and score a decent amount of touchdowns in the year just because of that big playability. And then you have James Robinson beating teams up, being a little bit of a closer. He's going to get his fantasy value in the red zone. But I think they complement each other well. I think they'll both be viable. I think Etienne has some upside. And we've seen running backs who don't need a ton of volume be in the RB1 range because of what they can do with the chunk plays that he's really good at doing.
Yeah, he's very Alvin Kamara-ish in his rookie season when they had Mark Ingram there as well.
Yeah, like PFF compared Javonte Williams to Alvin Kamara, which is insanity to me. I didn't understand that at all. I'm not comparing. I don't think Etienne's nearly the creative runner that he is, but usage-wise and big playability, he could do that.
Yeah, and I think as far as the touches too and how they're divvied out could be very similar to how it was with Mark Ingram, where he was sort of the thunder to the lightning, so to speak.
And I think game script helps him too, because their team is going to be playing from behind because they still don't have a defense.
Yep.
They're going to be throwing a lot. And you mentioned, Shane, third down back role. When you're playing from behind, that's the back who's on the field.
Yeah, good point.
Yep. Good point.
All right, these next two guys were probably two of the biggest risers, at least in my rankings and probably most rankings, because we had these guys ranked fairly decently, but they went to some great landing spots, I think. And the first one, Michael Carter, probably steps into the Jets as, if not the starter, pretty close to the starter, with Tevin Coleman being there, and I believe P. Ryan also being there as well, but Carter could be the starter there before long. What are your thoughts on Michael Carter with the Jets, Shane, and how far did he jump in your rankings, if at all?
Michael Carter didn't really move up for me. He's kind of still in the same area, probably like that 205 to 209 area for me. I'm a little bit lower on him than some. Trey Sermon's the guy that I thought, like, pre-draft that I would be able to get 206 or later and just be in love with. I was starting to really like him a lot. And then he landed with the 49ers, and I'm starting to fall in love. And at that point, I thought, okay, I'll get him at 204 in that area. That's where I need to be. I'm starting to see him go at like 110, 112, and it's almost unobtainable now, unless you really feel like you trust it and you need a running back. But in that area, I'm still taking – it's hard for me to go that direction, but I like Trey Sermon's landing spot a lot.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Trey Sermon and Michael Carter?
I'm flip-flopped on it. Michael Carter rose a lot for me. We've seen that offense go back with how they use the running backs. And I'm going back to kind of the Atlanta days, which is funny because I was thinking about it earlier, and I looked on Player Profiler today, and he actually compares to him on there, and that's Devontae Freeman. You can see that similar of a role to him. He does a lot of the same thing well, where he's shifty, he runs kind of strong for a smaller back. He's really good in the passing game. And I think he fits what they do really well. Their running backs now are garbage. Michael P. Ryan's not good. Nothing they have there is good. And similar to, when I talked about the game script, Michael Carter is going to be in a game script that fits his role where they're going to be throwing a lot. And again, he's another guy who can see a ton of targets in the passing game. and that sticks in fantasy football. And even if a year down the line, 2 years down the line, which they probably will bring in a running back because they have 20 picks every year because they've been trading well, they're going to be in a backfield with him having a very specific role. So I like that for fantasy. 49 Trey Sermon is nice for the 49ers, but they're a committee team to me. I see you guys not having committee and rotating backs, and I think it'd be foolish not to because they have so many versatile skill sets. Him and Raheem Mostert are so different. And you have Jeffrey Wilson and Wayne Gallman's a little bit of everything. I can't see them not rotating backs, even once guys start to clear out. And it's not a bad thing. I think he'll get red zone looks, but I can't see him getting enough volume where I trust him in fantasy.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in that sense for year one. But Jeff Wilson Jr. and Raheem Mostert are both in the last year of their contract. There's a very good scenario in where Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell, who we also drafted in that draft as well, are the committee next year in 2022. So for 2021, maybe he doesn't get quite the volume or the usage with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson there, but I do think it's an investment for 2022, and that could be the 1-2 punch coming into that year where you're going to kind of get the value from him there. And I'm with you on Michael Carter as well. He also jumped in my rankings. I actually just recently drafted him at I believe the 112 is when I got him. I do think he can step into a role right away. It's the Jets. You don't have a whole lot there. We had Tevin Copeland on our team last year, the 49ers, and he wasn't that great there, so I doubt he's going to be much with the New York Jets either. He's probably more there. He's just a veteran presence. Trey Sermon I love as well. I do think Trey Sermon's going to be good. I just think that the biggest issue with him is injuries. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll be fine, especially if they manage to be able to rotate him and keep him healthy. That'll definitely help him his long-term outlook for me. All right, so there was a lot of guys that we liked coming into the draft that had some pretty bad landing spots or spots where they're not going to have volume right away. I'm just going to list them off really quick and then let one of y'all talk about any of the guys you want to mention here. But Chuba Hubbard, Kenny Gainwell, Javian Hawkins, Jamar Jefferson, Ramondre Stevenson, Elijah Mitchell, Khalil Herbert, and Puka Williams. Any of those guys, Shane, that you want to talk about? Anything that are worth talking about in fantasy right now?
No, not super much. I'm happy to though.
If you want to pick one, is there one of them that you liked coming into the draft that landed in a bad spot? That
I mean, Chuba Hubbard, I would have liked to see go somewhere where I thought he had some kind of opportunity that we would like without an injury to somebody like McCaffrey. You know what I mean? He's one that, I mean, I would have loved to have seen him on the 49ers. That would have been probably a little bit more fun to talk about than Trey Sermon, to be honest with you. And I am excited about that, don't get me wrong, but he's one that I was kind of hoping would at least have one of those opportunities we could talk about without an injury. And I don't think we got that with him.
Yeah, I agree. I actually had that predicted on the draft show that we were going to take Chuba Hubbard in I think the late third round, and we ended up going with Trey Sermon instead. But yeah, I would love to see Hubbard with the 49ers as well.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Ryan? Is there anybody in that list there that you wanted to talk about?
There is. I wanted to piggyback real quick on the Chuba Hubbard thing. I think him and Kenny Gainwell are such similar situations where they've become top-notch handcuffs. Like how we look at Alexander Madison and these following up Dalvin Cook. These guys are following up players who they don't have the same skill set as, but they can do a lot of the same things well. And if their starting running back goes down, whether it be Sanders or CMC, they fill in and they give you good fantasy production. What is kind of intriguing to me and is like a lower tier flex option in the futures is Ramondre Stevenson. Bill Belichick is a creature of habit when it comes to how he builds his offenses. And especially with Cam Newton going to be gone, because Cam Newton's been their hammer in the red zone. But they had all of those years with, I just blanked on his name.
LeGarrette Blount.
LeGarrette Blount. Ramondre Stevenson is that LeGarrette Blount role. It's going to be him, Damian Harris, and whoever's in the pass catching role. And if that offense ever gets clicking, he could be a heavy touchdown guy for them, because Bill Belichick has no problem hammering a big 240-pound running back down his throat once he gets.
I love that narrative, man, and it's I've been there so many times where I want to pull the trigger on him, and I just haven't been able to because then something talks me out of it. But I love it, dude. I'm gonna have to get attached to at least a couple shares just in case because it's so feasible, dude. I love it.
Yep.
My other co-host on my other show is a big Patriots guy, and he's been just hammering me with that narrative.
Yeah, Sony and Harris haven't done enough to keep that job.
Yep, 100% agree. Yep. Yeah, so the one guy I wanted to talk about, he actually went undrafted, but got picked up into a pretty good situation where he only has Mike Davis in front of him. That's Javian Hawkins. I don't think Javian Hawkins will ever be a lead back or a 20 carry plus guy, but I think he complements Mike Davis. He can, be that guy. I know we haven't seen it much in college, him catching passes, but we just assume he can do it because he's one of those fast, quick guys. If he can show that he can catch passes out of the backfield, I think he's got a role there with Atlanta Falcons. As an undrafted guy that might slide down to some late rounds there because he went undrafted, I think he's worth taking a shot on for sure.
Yep. And I mean, if you're a value guy, he's one of those guys that just needs an injury for a quick like uptick in value, and then you move him at that point when Mike Davis goes down and everybody kind of hypes it up a little bit too much. Like he's a player that could stand to gain value very easily from an injury.
Definitely. And I had to do an article for Fantasy Pros on who is this year's James Robinson, which we know that doesn't happen very often when we get the undrafted guy. But if I had to pick one, I think Hawkins has the easiest path to early down touches as an undrafted free agent there. So Hawkins would be my pick there. All right, take a quick commercial break, guys, and then we'll come back. We will talk about these wide receivers, so hang tight.
Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports and esports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive's game concept revolves around player props, which are simple over-unders on player stats. There are contests for traditional sports including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, and cricket, as well as esports titles including CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and more coming soon. Here's how to play. Choose your lineup of over-unders for top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Each prop has a fantasy point total based on how likely it is to hit. The more points the selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive is awarded over $2 million in cash, so come and prop up today.
All right, guys, welcome back. I'm here with Shane and Ryan, and we are about to talk about the rookie wide receivers and their landing spots. So the clock's getting kind of long here, so we're going to do these first couple of guys we'll talk about as a group, and then we'll quick fire those last few ones there and just rotate them between the two of you. Jamar Chase, of course, is the number one guy there, going to the Bengals, reuniting with Joe Burrow there. He's got some competition there for targets. There's some good receivers that are already on that team. But what are your thoughts on Jamar Chase's landing spot, Shane?
You got to love it, right? I mean, reunites with his college quarterback. Like you said, I mean, it's crowded. So it was crazy as we're talking about this. I don't want to give away too much, but so many of the top wide receivers landed in these spots where you're they either seem a little bit crowded or you just didn't want your wide receivers there. And then the ones that seem to land a little bit later, you're kind of like, that's a pretty good landing spot. Just all backwards. Yeah,
I agreed 100% there. And I think with Chase, we looked at it on the draft show a little bit. The Bengals last year spread it pretty evenly between the three receivers. A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins all had about 105-ish targets each. So if Jamar Chase steps into that kind of volume already, I think he's going to be an excellent fantasy choice for sure. What are your thoughts on Jamar Chase, Ryan?
Yeah, they threw the ball 581 times last year. And that was with Joe Burrow missing time. I actually projected them out. I did my projections for them already just because it was one of the ones I was most curious at. I'm right at 100. I'm at 104 targets, 862 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like, we saw this with CeeDee Lamb last year. He came into a very crowded offense. We were worried about it. And guess what? That offense throws the ball an absolute shit ton. Cincinnati has no defense. They're going to be doing the same thing. He has a connection with Joe Burrow. He's an absolute star. And as good as T. Higgins is, he's not as good as Amari Cooper. Jamar Chase is going to be a target hog. He's going to be a wide receiver wanted out in the future. Get him now because it's the cheapest you're going to get him.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, another guy, the guy that was probably the consensus number 2 or 3 coming in. His value didn't change too much, but he goes to the Eagles, who just took a receiver last year in the draft as well. Devonta Smith. Shane, what are your thoughts on Smith and going to the Eagles with Hurts as his quarterback?
I don't love the landing spot, but I'm optimistic to see what happens with Hurts and kind of changing. But, man, I don't know. I don't love the landing spot. There were 2 spots I really didn't want my wide receivers to go to, and that was the Ravens and the Eagles. Yeah.
Ryan's a Ravens fan. He hates hearing that, but we'll get
It's
to.
true.
Hey man. But here's the truth. Like, I think your offense does great things. It's not like you have a bad team.
No,
You take advantage of your players' skill sets. I am definitely not trying to like be a Ravens hater. I just don't know if it's optimal for my fantasy wide receivers.
No, I don't disagree. There's a big difference between real football and fantasy football when it comes to certain fits, and I fully support that. We did a mock, and I passed him at like 205 or 206, and it hurt my heart for Rashad Bateman to do because Rashad Bateman was my wide receiver 3 or 4 through the entire process, but it didn't hit for me. Even though it's the pick I wanted from day one, and Jeff knows this because I haven't shut up about Rashad Bateman for months.
Yeah, Rashad Bateman is this year's Justin Jefferson from last year when you were talking about him the whole time.
Yeah, I know. With Devontae Smith, man, I agree. I've tried to talk myself into it, and like I try to create the narrative where it's good, but then I go back to what I was thinking the whole time. I've said, like, with receivers like Devonta Smith, Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett, these explosive big play guys, for them to be successful, is a big part of Tyreek Hill, whether we want to admit it or not, because he's one of the best and most accurate at slinging it downfield efficiently. Tyler Lockett, same thing. He's a small receiver who's a burner. He succeeds because Ross Wilson's great at it. You saw Deshaun Jackson's career go up and down depending who his quarterback was. Devontae Smith could be the same thing. I know he was the highest winner and awesome, and yes, we don't want to shit on him for being a little receiver.
Yeah, Marquise Brown, Henry Ruggs.
Yep.
They could be good. If you gave Henry Ruggs, who's kind of disappeared, if you gave him a different... Aaron Rodgers goes there, he's a star.
Yeah.
With Derek Carr there, he's just saying with, like, Hollywood doesn't fit what Lamar does well. It's just, it's matching them up.
Yep. And here's the thing. I have a type, and it's not the little fast guys. I want my little fast guys after they hit, and I'm willing to pay up for Tyreek Hill at that point. And I get that I can get a deal on Devontae Smith right now that's nowhere close to that ceiling, but I'm willing to pay up for them after they hit, but I don't want to take the risk. I'd rather go with Jalen Waddle, to be completely honest with you.
And I love Jalen Waddle's my receiver too. I love Waddle.
Same, dude. Same. Yep. Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about.
We don't have to debate about that one.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about Waddle and that landing spot there with Tua, and he's paired with his old quarterback as well. What do you like about Waddle so much?
And it was same with Smith. We didn't even mention that, but he's also paired back up with it. It's so crazy how this draft worked out.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Waddle there, Shane?
I like the landing spot. He's a little bit of a bigger body. I like that offense and what they're trying to do for Tua. They took him earlier in the draft. I was just not a big Devonta Smith guy throughout the entire process, and it was because of his size and my type.
Yeah.
I'm that, like, Terrace Marshall type, the Jamar Chase type.
Yeah.
You know, like those guys.
Definitely. Ryan, what's your thoughts on Waddle? I know you said you liked him a lot there. Do you like him with Tua?
I did. I've come around to it. At first, I was a little worried because part of me thought that him and Will Fuller were a little redundant together. They have some targets there. Devontae Parker has a very solid role. I can't kick myself off Preston Williams. Gesicki's still an athletic pass catcher. I don't like him. But Jalen Waddle's still different. Like, Waddle is a guy you want to get the ball in open space. You create touches for. They're going to have to. His athleticism forces you to manufacture touches. And he'll also create them on his own because of the separation he gets in the passing game. And he has that connection with Tua. He's talented, man. And I think that
think we may have lost Ryan. Did we lose you too? No, Shane, you're still here.
I think I'm here.
Yeah, I think Ryan's he's back now. Ryan, are you back?
I disappeared. Yeah, I don't remember what I said, but I think
I don't remember what I said.
Well. I don't know where I cut out at.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Waddle's good. Yeah, good landing spot. I do think he's over Devontae Smith. I moved him up over Devontae Smith as well, so I agree there.
Yeah, I think they manufacture touches for him. Like, they force him to get the ball. I wouldn't be surprised he uses some special teams too. Like, he's got to get touches one way or another, and he creates separation. It looks good.
All right.
Yep. And Parker's 28, late bloomer in the NFL.
Kid, he's so old.
Yep.
He was a never has been for 4 straight years in his career.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, let's go quick fire here. Let's get some quick analysis of these next guys. Rashad Bateman, Ryan, this is your boy. Give me your thoughts on his fantasy outlook.
It's hard. I honestly, I've been skipping doing Baltimore's projections. I have no idea what to do with it. There's a lot of questions. They brought in some new coaches that are kind of not hardball guys, like T. Martin, who's very good with the passing game coordinator, and they look like they want to improve their passing game. I just don't know how the targets are going to be, because they're not going to pass the ball over 500 times this year, and if they did, I'd be ecstatic from a fantasy perspective. And under that, you're going to get 100 targets going Mark Andrews' way. You're going to get 80 Hollywood Brown.
And we're losing Ryan again.
Anybody that's kind of used to like hearing me or listening to me is sick of hearing this stat, but 37 starts for Lamar Jackson, and he's averaged 191 yards through the air.
Yikes.
And I know they say they want to pass the ball more, but I mean, how much more? Like 40, 50 yards between all those guys that Ryan just mentioned? It's just tough for me.
Yep.
You can't do it. They want to play a positive game script. They want to run the ball.
Yeah, agreed.
That's just what Baltimore does. They have to improve their passing game because they're never going to get a free agent to sign there as the wide receiver. And if they don't, I think long term we could see Greg Roman leaving. If that offense doesn't improve this year passing, Greg Roman's gone, which gives me hope for Bateman.
Yeah.
But it's going to be Bateman may not produce much this year, and you can get him at pennies on the dollar in the offseason.
Yeah.
So
I'm so glad you brought that up. Like that, I think that speaks volumes, and a lot of people don't want to hear that, but nobody wanted to sign there. And I'm, as a Ravens fan, I'm kind of glad that you brought up the free agency of like Galladay going through there, Corey Davis going through there, Juju going there and taking a 1-year deal instead of a long-term with them. I think it's just because they knew what they were getting into and how they were going to continue to run that offense, and they wanted more.
Yep, exactly. And speaking of Moore, Mr. Rondell Moore, Shane, this is your guy. Talk about Rondell Moore a little bit. Do you like him with the Cardinals?
I like Rondell Moore, man. 20-year-old, lands in a great spot. I don't think he's going to have any problem taking over Christian Kirk. I think A.J. Green's out of the league in a year or two here, maybe throughout the season, some more injuries. Great veteran presence, though, for guys like Rondell Moore. I know they're not the same fit. Like Rondell Moore is no T. Higgins to me, but I like the landing spot a lot. It's a high-volume offense, and they've been looking for a wide receiver like this. I hope they hit on Rondell Moore, but there's still some pipe dreaming in there, but young guy, man, so you love to see that.
Yeah,
Jeff hates him.
Yeah, I'm a Rondell Moore hater. I actually wrote something about it. It's not that I don't like him. I like him as a player. I want to see him succeed. It's the fact that up until recently, you had to draft him in the first round. And he has to be a unicorn. He has to be the 5'7" guy that's going to make it in the NFL when it hasn't really happened before as a receiver. And I don't want to draft a first-round receiver to be a unicorn. If I can get him in the second round, I'm taking him. But the fact that he was going like 107, 108 there for a while was just too high for me to take him at 5'7", and having never seen it before. Other than I think Cole Beasley's the one guy that's had any kind of relevance in the NFL as a receiver at 5'7". If he's great, he's great. I'll be the one to miss on him in the rookie draft. Like you mentioned before, the Tyreek Hills. I'll buy them when they're Tyreek Hill. I'll buy them at the higher cost and taking a risk on them at the rookie draft for sure.
Have you looked at like the way that the Cardinals have distributed their targets all from last year? It's crazy. It's 160 targets for D-Hop and anywhere from 35 to 75 for 6 guys. And a lot of those guys, including Rondale Moore, kind of fit that mold. You mentioned how Christian Kirk does. They're the same mold. Andy Isabella, same mold. Like I feel like they're going to have Hopkins just eating targets and the rest of these guys just spread out, and whoever's open, that's who Kyler's going to, because he's really good at finding the open receiver.
Yep.
And that's what that offense is built to do. And it's an extension of the running game, plus you're going to get the 60 targets to Chase Edmonds. Like, it's really going to be spread out. That's my one. That's one of my biggest concerns.
You bring up some interesting points for sure.
All right, so we are up against the clock here, so we got a bunch of guys that we haven't talked about. So I'm going to give you the floor. Both of you pick one guy out of our remaining list of receivers that you wanted to talk about. I'll go to you first, Shane. Give me one of those guys that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to mention.
Man, I don't have the list opened up. I want to talk about, if this is okay, Tamarian Terry, undrafted free agent, goes to Seattle. He's my type, like I said. Nice big body. I think that he could be somebody that you get for next to nothing in your early rookie drafts right now before he moves up. Some people aren't even recognizing some of these guys signing with teams yet because we didn't see it in the drafts. He's one of those guys that I want to go out and get. I was talking to Felix Sharp a lot about him on the Rookie Fever player profiles, and he started to really turn me to him, started watching tape on him. I like him a lot. Him and Nico Collins.
Nico Collins is another good one. Yeah, I like both those guys. I actually liked Terry coming in pre-draft, and I was sad to see him not drafted, targeting in probably my undrafteds. After my rookie drafts are over with, I'll probably be looking for him as an undrafted guy to sign him with some fab, because I do think he'll go undrafted in a lot of leagues. Ryan, what about you? Any guy on that list that you want to talk about?
Yeah, it's a couple. I really want to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I'm going to skip him just
yes.
because I love it so much. And
man, dude, same.
But
we'll just say that, and then we don't need to talk about it.
I want to talk about Cardavius Toney, because I feel like we're too low on him. I really do, because we build the narrative here. He has the high draft capital, which is great, but we're pairing with Daniel Jones, so everybody thinks it's terrible and this offense is bad. It struggles very heavily, but they don't have a great receiver. They're receiving Galladay, who's going to get his resident targets, but Daniel Jones threw a lot underneath last year, to whether it was Shepard, Golden Tate. Those guys had 140 targets between the two of them in the same role. Toney's coming into that role, and neither of them are that kind of athlete. Toney is very good in open space. He's a run-after-catch guy. He turns into a punt returner when he has the ball in his hand. And he 90 to 110 targets underneath. And with his big playability, he can make plays happen. I really think they were shooting for lightning in the bottle, because they got, when OBJ came out, he was a run-after-the-catch guy who kind of got slept on because of his role in the offense. I'm not making that comparison at all, but what he does well, other than those absurd hands that OBJ had after the catch, is what Toney does well. And I think that's what they're trying to build with him. And he could be a safety blanket plus more for Daniel Jones. And he's getting drafted in rookie startups now below guys who were who went in the third round.
Yep.
Draft capital matters.
Yep.
And the whole time through, like, really smart guys like Daniel Jeremiah and all these draft people had him as a lock first-round pick the whole way. I know Draft Twitter was against it, but when a lot of these professionals think this, there's something to it. it's one of those things where I may not have saw it watching, but I'm putting my ego aside because all the tea leaves are there.
Yeah, I like it. So real quick, Shane, give me your quick love on Amon-Ra St. Brown and his landing spot with the Lions.
Man, so I mean, first and foremost, I am a Detroit Lions fan. I'm here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, so I love the landing spot. The dude's a great route runner. Lands in a great spot where, honestly, I think he's got a shot at being third in targets, possibly behind Hawkinson and Swift.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's even that crazy that you're seeing him and Quentin Cephas as the top wide receiver targets on that team, unless they find somebody that's either cut and they pick him up, or they trade for somebody, or if they get one of these undrafted free agents. I was hoping we would go after Terry, like we just mentioned Seattle did, but I just think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I like it. I think y'all did sign somebody, right? Y'all got Sage Surratt, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Plus, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's fits with Jared Goff so well because St. Brown's a big slot. Like, he's gonna play slot. It's what he played in college at that position. And guess what? Who Jared Goff's favorite target was his entire tenure for the Rams? His
Kupp.
big slot receiver in Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
He could be pure volume right away. I'm drafting him above Rondell Moore, probably drafting above Rashad Bateman. Maybe the big three in Terrace Marshall, the only guys I'm taking above him right now. Like, I really like him.
Nice. I like it. All right, it is time for our favorite segment of the night.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Shane, I know you said you had one ready to go here, and you were getting some stats and stuff right before the show started. Give us your Forgotten Fantasy.
The pressure is on. Well, I was trying to fine-tune it a little bit. I had to, so I went back a little bit. I don't know if this guy is forgotten. I'm hoping he hasn't been talking about here. Definitely wasn't a sleeper, but I just felt like he was always a bargain. And that player is Maurice Jones-Drew.
Nice.
He's one of those players back in the day, like drafted in 2006. I've always been a running back guy before Superflex. I was playing one quarterback a lot back then, a lot of keeper leagues before Dynasty. And I remember trading for him in his second season because Fred Taylor was the starter. But even in that season, Maurice Jones-Drew didn't start one game, and he was running back 13.
Wow.
And that was his worst. I've got like 6 years here from 2006 to 2011 where he was just dominant. He had 33.5% of that team's offensive yards through the air or on the ground in that time span. In 2011, his last year, he had 1,000, not his last year, but his last really high year, he had 1,980 yards. He was RB3. That team only had 4,149 yards. The reason I really wanted to bring Maurice Jones-Drew up, though, is because people are constantly like, oh, I don't want him, he's in a bad offense. No, I don't want him, he's in a bad offense. But it always worked out. And the deals that I remember always being able to get on him because he'd slip in a draft. He didn't get all 16 starts till 2009, actually. He only had 3 in 2008,
wow.
His third year, and he had 1,389 all-purpose yards, 14 touchdowns. He was RB8, 16 overall, like not including the quarterbacks at that point because we just weren't playing quite this, or I wasn't, should I say. But it was always just like, well, Fred Taylor's going to start or such a bad offense, but he just always showed up. Like, don't listen to that narrative that the best player on the team isn't going to succeed just because the team is awful. Like it helped him a lot, actually.
Yeah, I love that pick. That's an awesome one. And I think you're talking about, a player on a bad team and being really good. You should be the expert on that, being a Detroit Lions fan, because you had Barry Sanders for so many years.
Dude, but no, seriously though, Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson. I mean, we've had plenty of good players and fantasy relevant players on that bad team.
Yep, yep, good stuff. That was an awesome one. I don't think we've had Maurice Jones-Drew on.
No, we definitely have. I love Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yep.
He's one of my favorites.
Yep.
So yeah, and that's why it's so tough.
5'6", 5'7".
Yeah, he was a
Yeah,
small guy. They
he's
called him like a
tiny
bowling
dude.
ball.
And he seems like such a cool dude when you see him on TV and stuff. So he's definitely not forgotten, but just what he did. And I mean, he started once his rookie season and he had 23 yards shy of 14 yards, which is even kind of what I was thinking of Javonte Williams while we were talking. Like maybe Melvin Gordon still does start, but that doesn't mean that like Fred Taylor was still nothing back then when he was getting those starts.
Yep.
So it was really fun to go back and look at the historical data. So I enjoyed this part of the show a lot.
Nice. There's a funny story I have from one of my former writers on Maurice Jones-Drew. He'd been playing Dynasty for a while, and he had Maurice Jones-Drew on his team. After Maurice Jones-Drew was out of the league, he made a championship run. He actually added Maurice Jones-Drew to his Dynasty team, even though he wasn't in the NFL.
Yes.
Just so he can get a championship. Just so he can get that chip that year. So, pretty cool story. But yeah, I loved him as well. I've been playing fantasy for a while, and he was one of my favorite players as well. So, good one. All right, guys, that wraps the show up. Let's go around the room here. Give us your Twitter handle where we can follow you at and plug anything you may have going on. And Shane, we'll go to you first.
Well, I'm Swagzilla0G. Do the Rookie Fever with Dave Wright at FF_Spaceman. Feverish Fernero at Artbark TV. We've been just pumping it out. That's been a lot of fun. Then at Superflex City, at Super Flexible, over there with John Hogue, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, but did want to give those guys a shout out. I appreciate this a lot, man. Tons of fun, man. Glad to come on here and chop it up with you guys a little bit for sure.
Definitely. We have to get you back on at some point in this off season, and we'll talk about maybe some training camp stuff or something.
For sure.
All right, Ryan, what you got going on?
Find me on Twitter, Foss534. Find me here every Wednesday night. Find me over at the NFL Draft Bible. We do the Dynasty Draft Room podcast with Eric Adams. And that's really about it right now. I'm going to be kind of disappeared to put my rankings in here. Some of my projections, which I'll pop out somewhere at some point. I'm really excited about it.
All right.
Your podcast tour is going to kind of end a little bit here.
Yeah. He's coming down.
I'm other than my two. I'm going to stick to my 2 a week for a little bit. Unless something
What do
really
you call
fun
that? Is that like pod lag or?
Pod lag.
I like that. Yeah, that's not accurate, dude.
Yeah, we just invented a new word, pod lag. I like it. All right. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, check out all the shows that we have on the Going for Two Live network on YouTube. Going for Two Live. You can just search for them. We have 8 separate shows on this network, guys. Check them out. Podcast with Upside, the 2-point conversion, press coverage, speak on it. We got a new show we just launched, the Devi Royale. They're in episode 3 now, so check them all out, guys. For Shane, for Ryan, I'm Jeff. We will see y'all next week.